You're listening to Trek.fm.
Welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th anniversary rewatch project, where the hosts of the network get together and discuss for you all 729 episodes of Star Trek, including these two episodes of Voyager, Latent Image and Bride of Chaotica. My name is Brandon, and joining me today is Lee Hutchison. How you doing, Lee?
I've just woken up from our discussion about Prodigal Daughter yesterday, so I'm all refreshed and ready to talk about these two interesting episodes.
Well, you know what's great is that we get a chance to talk about Ensign Nancy. You remember Ensign Nancy, don't you?
Oh yes, I think you can put her on the list of all these Voyager characters that were so important and integral to the crew and never to be heard from again.
Yeah, but she was so important and everybody loved her. Wait a minute. I don't recognize her at all.
Ooh, what a mystery.
Mystery. Latent Image. The Doctor discovers scar tissue on Harry's neck, and it leads down a rabbit hole of intrigue and mystery as we find out that Captain Janeway has been erasing the Doctor's memories. Dun dun dun. I love this episode. Your turn.
I really like this episode, but I'm slightly frustrated by it.
Why?
Okay, I'll get the frustration part of it out of the way. I'll take the kick in, and then I can talk about why I think it's a great episode. Again, this episode works as in isolation. This is a brilliant episode, but it's the same as they deal with in is it Spirit Folk or whatever in a few weeks' time when Harry Kim finds an ensign that was dead and brought back to life. Voyager really, really annoys me when it does this. Like recurring trend of they have this character that is meant to provide the emotional part to the story that's either died or gone through something horrific or has some sort of relationship to the main character that we've never seen from and we're meant to totally buy into. It's totally false BS drama. Like, oh, like this character died. I've never heard of her. Like, it never happened. This whole thing, oh, happy birthday. Oh, how you doing? I'm going to send you on the mission. And it's like trying to cram like all these years of like making us trying to care about a character and create character relationships in just like a scene or two. And it really, really annoys me that could we not have maybe that's like Ensign, that could be Ensign Wildman. That's where she's vanished off to after season 2 or something like that. And it's just really annoying, and I wish Voyager would stop it, because this is when it would have been great having like all these recurring characters on the ship, all these people they could call upon, and not just making someone up to create drama and expecting us to care. On the other hand, if this character was someone that did care, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. This is a one-off episode. It was blah blah blah. It's really good. It's a brilliant tour de force from Robert Picardo. It's an interesting story. It's really well told. I think it's a great example of a debate that had... I don't necessarily buy that Janeway would have had that attitude to the Doctor by this point in the series. But even then, the drama, the character conflict, how 7 of 9 brings a human touch to Janeway's action, I think is excellent. So I think this episode is fantastic. But if they had used a character that we knew we're familiar with, this could have been up there with the best Voyager.
See, I don't know. For me, it works that it isn't a character that we knew, because if it had been a character that we knew, and all of a sudden the Doctor didn't know who they were, it would have been like, oh, so that's what happened to that character that we didn't see. So at first, with us not recognizing this person, it almost throws you for a loop, and you're like, well, where is this episode going to go, and what's going to happen? And we've seen the episode many, many, many times, but not knowing who this person is in this image, and then finding out that it's Janeway, that it's erasing his memories and doing this stuff, adds this layer of mystery so that you don't know where the episode is going to go. So for me, it works, because at first you're like, well, is it an alien influence, or what's going on? Somebody's done something. Oh, it's Janeway that's doing it. What's going on with Janeway? Why is this all weird? So I don't know. It worked for me that it's a person that we never met before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I think at the same time that Voyager has this history of characters kind of dropping in and out. Joe Carey, for example, that we could have had this moment where I don't know who Joe Carey is, like that being the mystery of where Joe Carey's vanished off to or something like that. Yeah, honestly, like we kind of laugh about it, but that would have been a really good thing. That okay, this isn't a character we've seen in a while, so even when he goes, oh, I don't remember this character, it's a mystery as well, because we're thinking, well, how does he not remember him? Yeah, we could joke, oh, he's not been on it for a long time, but that would have been a character that they could have called upon. That I can't remember who I did a block with, that when Joe Carey only appears when Voyager is having a flashback episode and he's the point in time to make it say that it's like early Star Trek Voyager. So that could have been what makes it a really standout thing, that makes it pack a punch, because at the end it becomes a slight frustration that we're meant to buy into the Doctor's choice he's got between Harry Kim and this character we've never ever heard from, and we've only ever just seen have a birthday party, which is just a total hokey way to make us think, oh look, they've got a birthday party, they're a real life human being, oh great. It's now a choice between this character that we've known for 5 years and a character that we just saw eating some cake. If you made it a character that they kind of knew or was familiar to Voyager fans, then we could buy into it. It creates a choice for the Doctor between someone that we know and someone else we know, as opposed to a series regular and another person, and then it makes death even more impactful. It's just little things like that where Voyager frustrates me, because it's got such a good idea. It's something that just needs that little polish, a little better execution, and we could have just knocked it out of the park here. And I think that's the story of Voyager in a oneer for me.
So let me ask you, I got 2 questions for you then. Question 1. Would it have been better had this been one of the Delaney sisters?
Yeah, sure, because even though we've only seen them, well, one time, we've
I don't think we've seen them yet at all. We've heard about them, but we haven't seen them.
I think we saw them in it was one of the Bride of Chaotica episodes, I think.
I think it's the next one that we finally see.
The next one. Oh, God, that would have been a smooth segue. But no, I think, yeah, that would have been a character name that we were a bit familiar with, that we can kind of tie into, as opposed to, it's Ensign Jarrell. Oh, hey, Ensign Jarrell, let me send you on some mission. Oh, Ensign, remember we had that funny story? Like, I don't want to sound like I'm nagging on the episode. I'm just a bit disappointed in it, because it's so close to being a perfect episode, but the fact that it's just a bit too small in its thinking about how to push this episode lets me down, because I think Brian Fuller was involved in this episode, or someone along those lines. There's really good talent there, and it's just polish that episode, just go through another time. How can we make this impact last? And it's the same at the end. I'd love to have seen just maybe it touched upon in future episodes, the Doctor kind of how we could have maybe gone a bit further and just touched on how this episode influenced him, because it's a bit frustrating that it's a one-off, that he's in a horrible place, but by the next episode he's chilling out on the holodeck. So I don't want to sound like I'm being negative about the episode. I'm really not. I think it's a brilliant episode, but it's just from a logistical point of view, from a writing point of view, from a drama point of view, it really holds itself back when it could have just hit it out of the park.
Okay, so then the other question I would have is so when they give the Doctor that little bit of information, and he's like, oh, whatever. Why do I have to feel bad about this? I'm a doctor and I got to make a decision. And then Janeway looks down and she pushes a few more buttons. Every time I watch this episode, I expect us to get a flashback of a love story between the Doctor and this character, right? And that's why it would be even harder. And I almost think that would make the episode better had it ended up being a love interest for the Doctor that he ended up deciding to kill and not save, But that's where I think they're going with the episode every time I watch it, and they don't do that.
I think I'm frustrated enough that they're trying to introduce this character by giving them a birthday. I think if they had made it like it was a love interest from the Doctor that we'd only just met in this episode, I think I'd have lost the plot. I would have gone, that is just total drama 101 mistake.
You would have been like, screw this, where's the insurrection?
Exactly. Bring back the flaws of insurrection. It's just, I know. I think there's an interesting debate to be had from here. Like, sometimes I admit if this is a great Star Trek episode, but as a fan, a huge lover of Star Trek and a huge fan of film writing techniques and design, it really kind of presses a button with me that bugs me. Okay.
Well, let's move on to the next episode, Bride of Chaotica. So, holodeck malfunctions happen again, and we have, for some reason, everybody's favorite episode of Voyager.
Yeah, you messaged me kind of a few days ago before we recorded this going, I've just watched Bride of Chaotica. I really don't like it. And I was like, really? I think I haven't watched the episode. Maybe I've watched it once since the air date. And I was like, really? I think it's pretty good.
It's a holodeck episode.
But,
I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you're right. I rewatched the episode and I was like, oh, Brandon's right. This isn't very good.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I don't know. So many people love this episode. Like, it's like the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, it's just another holodeck episode where everybody has to act campy. And the only notes I wrote down were no power for 3 days and no one realized the holodeck was running. I don't know.
Yeah, like, I think it's one of those ones that I think it's the same in any day job that, you know, they play around on the bridge, they play around on the Planet Hell set, they do these things, and it's fine. But when you get the opportunity to fancy dress, run around, be a bit camp and a bit silly, when you're working on kind of a episodic TV show, I'm sure it was great fun to write, it was great fun to star in, but it kind of just, like, falls short again. Like, I think it's interesting, the campy humor, the jokes, there's some interesting little visual gags in there. I love the robot, but it's just like an episode where it's like, oh, it's okay, it's fine, it's not the greatest episode, and that's not necessarily something I'm going to hold against it. I think it's an okay episode. I don't think it's the greatest of all time or the best holodeck episode or a classic Voyager episode. It's just okay, fine, sure, yeah, I enjoyed it. There's enough in there to keep me going.
I don't hate the episode. It's fine. It's a holodeck malfunction episode. It's fine.
Like, that's the problem, the frustration with kind of the Voyager is these kind of, that they're all the way at the other side of the galaxy. And this is where, like, where I was talking about in Latent Image, where if you've got like a whole crew of ship, you can develop these characters and have so many character episodes, and you don't necessarily always have to dip into the main crew. And I always think the holodeck episodes are kind of a crutch of Voyager to fall on, of unoriginal ideas, that I think they get so bored of their own concept of they're stranded in the Delta Quadrant going from planet to planet, nebula to nebula, that like, oh, you know, even they're bored of writing anything. You know what? Let's go do a holodeck episode. And I think in the scale of holodeck choices, I think the Chaotica program is so much better than, dare I say, the Irish holodeck program, which is just so utterly awful and offensive. So I think on a sliding scale of Voyager and its holodeck episodes, this is one of the much better ones, but it's just this constant problem that these writers go, oh, what do we want to write about this week? Oh, Harry learns a lesson, Janeway has a thing of command, Chakotay does something. Like, it's just something that they, instead of doing character building episodes, they too often rely on the holodeck as the gimmick to brighten up an idea, or they want to escape Voyager, so the writers are literally escaping Voyager to go right on the holodeck.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I'm sure we're gonna get it on the Babel conference, but I mean, I don't understand why people love this episode so much. Like literally, like this is like the number 2 episode of Voyager or something like that, and it's fine.
I think it is the same as, like, I think it's kind of probably ties into what I was saying for the writers there. It's an escape from Voyager. It's something that's a bit different, and I think when you write a list of, say, Deep Space Nine, TNG, to like one of the most popular Star Trek series, and you go, right, give everyone a list of 10 episodes and you tell me what your kind of favourite ones are. And you probably get a broad range, especially kind of with Deep Space Nine. With TNG, you probably see a lot of the Yes It Is Enterprises and Best of Both Worlds, which I think are amazing episodes, but I've personally got other favourites. And Deep Space Nine, we could all put, every Trek.fm host would probably pick a different Deep Space Nine episode as their favourite. And with Voyager, because the range of episodes aren't that diverse in the grand scheme of things, anything that's not kind of the norm, something like Bride of Chaotica, stands out as something original, whereas on TNG we had quite a few holodeck episodes. And Deep Space Nine, they had so many wildly different ideas. You know, we had a couple of holodeck episodes where it was the kind of the main focus. But there's so many broad things. With Voyager, it's like you've got your standard Voyager episodes, your holodeck episodes, and that's kind of what your most Voyager is made up of. You know, it's more traditional Voyager than holodeck episodes. So those ones stand out a bit more as opposed to kind of, oh, remember that episode where it was wacky and silly? That's why I think Threshold, people slate it as one of the worst episodes. I think it's brilliant because it's nuts. It's totally bizarre, ridiculous, and it's totally memorable in all the right ways because it's Voyager taking a risk. It may not pay off. It might be a bit silly in places, but boy, it's original and it's ambitious. With this, it's like Voyager does a holodeck episode and it's a bit campy. Yeah, big deal. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I would rather watch Latent Image.
Yes, absolutely. So would I.
Okay, well, when you're not acting campy on the holodeck, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on the Earl Grey podcast talking about Star Trek Next Generation, who did holodeck episodes better, and you can find me on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo. Where can people find you, Brandon?
Oh, when I'm not putting down Bride of Chaotica because I don't know, it's okay, it's fine. You can find me here on the episode with new episodes of Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of Star Trek, and I've been on some recent episodes of Warp 5, which is our Enterprise podcast, and you can find me every once in a while sticking my head up in the Babel Conference. So we won't be back tomorrow, but some other people will, so continue on with our From There to Here journey tomorrow.